when you look at the top 13 players on the final leaderboard, 8 of them were outside the top 100 in the FedEx Cup standings heading into the penultimate event. It will never cease to amaze me how these players, who are the very best at their craft, the best players on the planet, can somehow, some way, even if they have not done much over the past couple of months, summon the goods when they absolutely need it. It is not just, getting inside the top 100 and thus sort of securing your card for next season. It's also the top 70 trying to get into the playoffs. It's also the top 50 and trying to get into the signature events. It's also the top 30 and trying to get into the Tour Championship and having a chance to win the FedEx Cup title, like Sam Stevens trying to get to East Lake, Jake Knapp trying to get in the top 50, William Mao trying to get into the playoffs a couple weeks after winning the ISCO Championship, Chris Goddard trying to lock up a spot on the U.S. Ryder Cup. There are still plenty of storylines, plenty of players to watch. Again, it might not resonate with the wider golf audience. Like, I don't think the 3M is going to draw the biggest ratings of the year, but I think if you really love this game, and if you're invested week in and week out on watching the PGA Tour, I still think there's something for everyone. And in my opinion, these sort of late season full field events have actually only increased in importance, significance, and watchability.
I don't know that the 3M Open has. I guess you'd have to compare it to previous years. Certainly, you added the drama, and that's what the Tour wants. I mean, this came from the Fan Forward initiative that they announced earlier this year. This was something that the Tour wanted to make a point of, start telling these stories on Friday afternoon, start making it much more compelling instead of just being a random second round at TPC Twin Cities, which, man, I still can't believe you buried them that badly. And I think they did a good job of that this week. I will go ahead to next week. And I know you didn't want to jump forward to the Wyndham Championship, but I was teasing Mark Brazel, the tournament director, when I saw him a few weeks ago at the Scottish Open, about he's essentially become the fourth de facto playoff event because everyone will be scrambling for something. I don't think there's any surprise that the field that Mark has next week in Greensboro is the best ever, at least since they've been tracking these things, because you have so many players. I think you said it earlier. Jordan Spieth will be there. Chris Kirk will be there. He made a big jump this week, but he still has to crack the top 70. Every player will be playing for something. And I think that's the benefit of where these events fall. You're right. Normally, post-Open Championship, there was a lull. It got kind of sleepy, and there probably wasn't a whole lot of attention. I still don't think that I'm totally on board with going from top 125 to 100 for fully exempt cards and whatever it is they're going to do with the numbers going forward to make East Lake more compelling. But it certainly has made these two events certainly much more interesting.
Yeah, I think any move that a professional tour can make to make it more competitive, to make it more cutthroat, to introduce more jeopardy, I think is a stronger move. Again, I don't think it's that significant. You look at the players who are sort of on that bubble now, and you're again, it's the shift for the first time to top 100. They're players who have largely gone through some pretty significant lulls in their season. Maybe had a top 10 or 2, but ultimately were not as consistent as they needed to at least secure their playing privileges as of right now. And so when you look at this, Rex, and sort of the names who are on that top 100 bubble, who are some that really stand out to you that are going to have your attention this coming week at the Wyndham Championship?
Well, the two obvious ones that stand out is Kitayama. He moved from 110th to 53rd, as you said, which is a huge jump. That guarantees at least the first playoff event. Emiliano Grillo, he moved from 71st to 66th. Again, probably locked up that spot. I can't imagine he jumps out. But it was Chris Kirk, who I just mentioned. He moved from 77 to 72nd. And it's still outside, and he's still on the wrong side of that cut. But at least you gave yourself a chance coming up this week at the Wyndham Championship, where he is playing. If you only have to move up 2 spots or 3 spots, suddenly that's doable. Suddenly you start looking at a top 15 finish, maybe a top 10 finish. If you have to move up 10, 15, 20 spots, now all of a sudden you're looking at, if I don't win this and I'm not in the top 2, it's probably not going to happen. So those two interest me. Keith Mitchell fell out. He was one of the 2 players that actually fell out of that bubble. And here's an opportunity for Keith Mitchell to try to do something special. But if you're not in that first playoff event, your season next year is pretty much set. You will not be playing in the signature events. Wouldn't say that necessarily about Jordan Spieth. I wouldn't say that necessarily about every player, because there's also top 30 in the world that gets you in there. But if you're a Chris Kirk or you're a Keith Mitchell, you either do it next week or you're not playing the biggest events next year. And we've seen now we have enough of a sample size to understand how difficult it is to make up ground not playing in those events against the players who are playing in them. They're getting more points and there's no cut.
Yeah, I like all those names. I think back to the 54-hole co-leader at the 3M Open, a player like Thorbjorn Olesen, who had an opportunity not just to win the golf tournament, to improve his standing, ultimately squandered it with a really poor final round. Now he's well outside the top 100, needs to make it happen at the Wyndham just to secure his card. Joel Damon. It does not matter, Rex, what the cutoff would be. You could make it top 200, top 150, top 125, top 100. Joel Damon is always going to find his place right around that bubble. He's like the chief procrastinator, where he cannot do it enough early.
I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think he enjoys being there.
No. And now, like, if history's any indication, he'll probably get it done at the Wyndham Championship. But a late triple bogey on the 72nd hole at the 3M, bouncing from 99 to now 101. A couple of other names that were certainly intriguing to me. A player like Tom Kim, much was expected of him just a couple years ago. 89th in points, probably secure for the top 100 to keep his card, but very much needs to have a good week at the Wyndham Championship to move inside that top 70. I look at a player like Adam Scott, although his FedEx Cup playoff streak was snapped in 2023. He's 85th in the standings, could miss again. It could have looked entirely different for these next couple of years had that Sunday at Oakmont gone a little bit differently. And players like a Nikolai Hoggard, who's just outside the top 70, 71st, trying to make that European Ryder Cup team a great week at the Scottish Open and the Open Championship as well. Has been playing well of late. If he gets into the playoffs, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities that he could make a deep run as well.